purity, and there was an emphasis on God, and it was something that I wanted to see again, or be a part of.
It was like we just decided we wanted a place to worship, and we saw there was an event, a worship event, and we went, and we were really blessed by the worship, and it was something we wanted to do. There are very few places where you go and you see programs where it is actually real worship. It's not worship with some sort of agenda in it. So it was something we wanted to do.
On our own, we can do nothing, and we find ourselves in a situation in the country where it cannot just but be. Some of the problems and the issues cannot just but be spiritual. And if they be spiritual problems, then it's only God who can solve these problems for us. And he says that he inhabits the praise of his children. So we must begin to move our attention away from those things that compete with the knowledge of God and focus on God. And then as his power descends, or we become more aware of his power, then those things now become smaller and become less less substantial. So I think that God will, to come out of our situation in this country, God will have to come into the center of our lives, and no other way than to worship him. When we begin to worship God in spirit and in truth, and we would see his, Igbo people will sing a song and say, Idi Omimi. And the translation, only translation I can see for Odi is that his ways are unfathomable. His ways are past finding out. So everything will pale into insignificance when we begin to focus on God. And the Bible also says that seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all other things will be added. So when we begin to put ourselves, become God people, as we begin to worship him and we know him and we become more familiar with him, we will understand that those things that we seek and we run after are after. So therefore is a person who is not very enlightened, who goes and all he wants is a relationship with somebody you want things. If you want things, you don't really have to go to God. You can go anywhere else and get things. You can go to a man, you can go to a water spirit, you can go to whatever you want. But when you begin to, Peter, when he saw Jesus and Jesus brought all that fish, he realized that it was not about fish. So he went after the person who could make this happen. And that's what happens when you begin to understand that. So you stop looking for his, like you said, his hands, but you want his face.
There's so much that happens when you worship God. One of the things is that you hear from him. And also people say, has God ever spoken? How does God speak? One of the things I can say is that when you worship God, or you're in an atmosphere of worship, God truly speaks. And that is if you actually completely yield yourself to the Spirit and just go there with a heart expecting to receive from God. And it's not about anything, it's not about you, it's just about being in the presence of God. So I always say, I think that worship is fast track to come into the presence of God. So anyone that really wants to speak to God or wants to hear from God should go to this worship event.